Hey everybody, here we go. Another book review for our 52 books. This is number 4, and I realize here we are going into the latter part of February. I've only got 4 books in. Know that I've gotten several books that we've gotten through. I think we're through 8 or 9 right now, as far as how many I've gotten read or listened to this year. But what I'm finding myself doing is either re-listening or rereading the same book multiple times to make sure that I'm digesting enough information to, one, do the growth opportunity that I'm doing for myself, and of course making sure that I can give you some information that would be helpful going through these book reviews. So, Mastering Fear by Brandon Webb. I listened to this one a couple times. I found the book obviously very good. I listened to it twice, and there are several things that he goes through. There's a lot of different scenarios that he talks about, and understand that Brandon it was a Navy SEAL, and in fact he was the trainer through the SEAL program for the SEAL snipers. So huge credibility when it comes to mastering fear. In fact, some of his fear starts with when he was a kid, a teenage boy, and his folks decided to go on a sailing trip, and he decided that he wasn't going to get along with his dad at the time. His dad dropped him off. I forget where it was, somewhere south of Hawaii, and he ended up finding another boat to come back to Hawaii and then back to California when he was 16, living alone. And he had to figure out very quickly that life wasn't easy, and he had to figure out how to master fear. So some cool stories that go into this. I won't go into a lot of them, but in fact, the overarching thought process in this, and there's several levels of techniques that he uses, or things that he wants you to try to learn or accomplish in this book, which again, I don't want to give up too much information going through this, because I'd like you to read it and take the information that you would take out of it, not necessarily just me and where I'm at in my life and my journey, but where you can take it. So I won't go through all of the steps that he goes through in this book, but I will tell you that some of the things that I took away from it was, or at least the overarching point of this book is, mastering fear is not about ignoring fear or somehow figuring out how to sidestep fear. Fear is something, it's an emotional trigger in a lot of ways. It gets your heart rate going. It makes you sweat. There's a lot of endorphins that run when it comes to real fear. And it doesn't say avoid them or forget about them. In fact, it does the opposite. And it says, how do you almost conquer fear? How do you turn that fear into fuel, and then use that fuel for something more productive? So I thought that was really cool. You learn to channel that fear, that anxious feeling that you get. Instead of feeling anxious or feeling fear, you use that same feeling and apply it to something else. One of the stories that I found pretty good was where he was essentially the lookout person for a helicopter that needed to land on a ship, on a Navy ship, and he was down in the belly of the helicopter, and he was looking down, looking for lights. There was a storm, there was clouds, there was wind, and as he was looking down, he didn't see lights. He couldn't figure out why. He just happened to look up, and then he saw lights looking up, and for a minute he was disoriented, didn't know what was going on. Looked back down, and there was the ocean. In fact, it was churning at his feet. It started coming up into the bird, and he yelled altitude to the pilot, and the pilot froze. Didn't really know how to harness that fear, didn't know what to do. And in fact, they practiced for these things, but he just got caught in it and couldn't go. The co-pilot did take over and lifted them back up and set them down on the ship, and all is well there. But that was one of the moments in his life where he had to figure out real quick how to communicate with his team instead of having fear grapple him like it did the pilot in that situation, but figure out how to communicate calmly to let folks know how to get themselves out of that. The last thing I'll leave you with this is that a lot of times we will have fear that's not necessarily real, or it's in our head. So we could have something that is real, that could be, I just put an example here, like a 2 or 3 day old raw chicken sitting on the counter that we eat. That's real fear that we're going to get sick and possibly worse, right? So you can take something that's an actual real fear and avoid that, right? Or try to sidestep that. But the fear that a lot of us have are things that we don't know, or the unknowns rather, of something like you're scared of spiders, or fear of water, or fear of heights, or something like that. It doesn't mean that it's not real. It means that we're manifesting a lot of it in our head of what would happen if we come in contact with that. So again, it's trying to get into the right mindset. It's trying to use that energy that comes from fear, that anxiety part of it. That's a big word these days, is anxiety, and a lot of that is fear, and fear of the unknown. It's using that that feeling, that urge, that energy that is negative energy at the time, and transforming that into something that's more positive. So I think it's a great book for anybody that's looking at making themselves better even a little bit, talking about if you're trying to grow your business, if you're trying to work out something in the family, if you are legitimately scared of, for example, fear of water, and they talk about that, fear of swimming in open water in this book. They give examples, true examples on how to overcome that kind of stuff. And it's little pieces. It's doing little things that make you feel better along the way. So again, I'm not going to go through the whole book with you. That would defeat the purpose on the book review. I hope you heard something in here that would allow you to go out and buy this book, or listen to this book. Again, I'll put how to buy it in the comments, but let me know what you think. And on the next book that we're going to talk about, in fact, I'm going to record that one today as well. We are going to talk about, now I'm forgetting what we're going to talk about. Let's see. Oh, Never Split the Difference. Another great book that I listened to several times, and I have a personal story on this one that I'll share in the next video. Thank you very much, you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.